Madame Hélène has confirmed the surprise appearance of her husband during the intermission of her show. And as expected, Monsieur Hastings, there is something troubling you?
If I may speak freely.
You do not have to ask my permission.
This is all very overwhelming. We seem to be taking one step forward and two steps back.
I can understand your confusion, but you cannot allow it to consume you and your emotions to take charge.
Easier said than done.
Oui, monsieur?
Must you be so hard on her?
I presume you refer to Mademoiselle Farquhar.
You talk about emotions not taking charge.
She is a suspect in a murder investigation, not a guest at afternoon tea. If Mademoiselle Farquhar is more important than discovering the truth and finding justice,
I would have thought you would know better of me by now. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with how you spoke to her.
when it is your investigation, you will have the authority to conduct your questioning how you see fit. Until then, I will continue in a manner that has and continues to bring criminals to justice.
And I'll just keep my opinions to myself.
Let us focus on the case. What do we know about Mademoiselle Warbeck's relationship with the deceased?
Mr. Christensen suggested she had romantic feelings towards Irene, but she was just another of her pawns.
She cleaned the master key to hide Mademoiselle Court Smythe's actions, but perhaps she then became worried about her own involvement.
You think she could have killed her to stop the truth coming out to the trustees?
Which would in turn ruin her career. It is certainly a possibility. Your Grace.
Detective Poirot, good morning. Can I assume there is still a murderer loose on the streets?
London is a very large city. I would fathom a guess that there is more than one, as I have not had the chance to arrest him yet.
Your confidence astounds me. Look, you had better make it quick. I'm meeting the young Russian girl here. She had some questions about the museum building at the gala. Questions I'm sure only I can answer. God teaches us to forgive and love thy neighbor. Sometimes that can be more challenging than expected.
Has she offended you personally?
Using the museum for her sordid meetings with those uncouth men, I'd say so.
She doesn't strike me as someone that would be caught up in that sort of thing.
And what sort of thing am I referring to?
Well,
Exactly. If you don't know, it would be wise to remain quiet until you're spoken to. I walked in on them in the restoration room a couple of weeks ago. I had come straight from my regular Sunday service, as I had some business to tend to. I opened the door and saw them all sitting there, scheming and planning.
You are not aware of what they were meeting about?
Do you need to wash your ears out? I just told you what they were up to. And I could see she had the financial books out. Why would she need them? I'm not even privy to those. And when she saw me, they stopped talking immediately. Surely that is a sign of their guilt?
Merci, Your Grace. Mademoiselle Warbeck, if you have a moment.
I'm actually rather busy. Is there any chance you could come back later?
I would have thought recovering your painting and identifying a murderer would be at the top of your priority list.
I'm sorry. It's just been so hectic here. I can spare 5 minutes. Honorable? That's a good one.
I get the sense you two spend your time butting faces.
Butting heads.
Oui, butting heads.
It would be easier to say what we do agree on. I don't know what he has against me. I didn't like one of his suggestions for an exhibition, and since then he's made it pretty clear he wants me gone. Usually after an exhibition, the artist's work would be returned to them.
But on this occasion, that is not an option.
I still have every intention of going ahead with the exhibit that includes her work, even if the trustees are against it. I'm still the curator of this museum. I'm hanging her work now, and that's that.
I recall Mademoiselle Court-Smythe referred to the exhibit as hers. The level of arrogance and hypocrisy is now even more evident.
Is it necessary?
You do not wish to impede my investigation?
No, but I don't really understand what they have to do with the case.
It is important that...
That is quite all right, mademoiselle. It was not my intention to make you feel uncomfortable. You have been most helpful.
Aha. Oh. Huh. Oh. Huh. Huh. Aha. Oh. Mm-hmm.
Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction. Bishop Mountjoy was quite adamant Mademoiselle Warbeck's meeting was something untoward. Although I believe anything she does, he will likely look upon negatively. To have a young woman undermine him in front of the other trustees would have been the ultimate insult. He allows his personal feelings to accentuate his cynical side, instead of allowing facts and evidence to show the truth, as one should. Mademoiselle Warbeck was doing nothing detrimental to the museum. In fact, quite the opposite with her attempt to modernize it, likely against the old-fashioned trustees' opinions.
Go right ahead, Detective. I wonder who you've been talking to. What did he tell you? That I've been up to no good?
Not in so many words.
I was meeting with artists for a new exhibition. He has no idea what he is talking about when it comes to art. Or really anything for that fact. He can't see the future. The new wave that will change the art world forever.
As well as the uncouth gentleman you met, he also mentioned the financial books.
Uncouth? Anyone not wearing full priest robes is uncouth to him. I wouldn't show Horace the finances because it has nothing to do with him. And he's simply looking for any excuse to have me fired. Nothing more. Well, considering he didn't want her work anywhere near the museum, I wouldn't have said they had one at all. Then the next thing I heard was that he had commissioned her to do some pieces for his church. I didn't know anything about it until Irene told me.
Do you know what he had commissioned her to paint?
No idea, I'm afraid. She was sworn to secrecy.
You have been most helpful.
Go on, then. You make it sound as though it is I that has a problem with her.
Forgive me, have I misinterpreted?
If you cannot even understand what I have to say, how will you ever understand what Jesus and his Father in heaven require of you?
That is perhaps a matter best discussed at a later time. What I wish to know now is about you and Mademoiselle Warbeck.
There is no need to lose one's temper, Detective. The Lord tells us...
Your Grace, please.
A lesson for another time. Let's just say that I certainly wouldn't have given that common thief an exhibition, especially now. You'll have to be more specific than that, Detective.
The paintings produced by Mademoiselle Courtsmith's brush.
Oh, yes. Well, I thought it was necessary if she was to feature in the museum.
You couldn't just use her other pieces as reference?
I suppose I could have, but I don't actually see why it is any concern of yours. It is not as though I kept it anyway. I wasn't happy with it clogging up my bin, let alone my museum.
Merci, Your Grace.
Ah. Aha. Huh. Huh. Mm-hmm. Aha. Ah. Oh. Hmm. Oh. Oh. Hmm. Huh. Hmm. Hmm. Oh. Aha.
One step closer to revealing the truth. Hot on the culprit's heels. Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius.
It appears that the good bishop has been replacing the church's original artworks with fakes painted by Mademoiselle Court Smythe. He commissioned her to make these forgeries so that no one would notice when the originals disappeared.
Disappearing where, though? You don't think he's selling them, do you?
Why else? Mademoiselle Babagnan appears to have been right about the bishop's connection to the black market. Now, Hastings, we must ask ourselves, where might Bishop Mountjoy be hiding the original paintings from the church before he sells them on? We must gain access to the space behind the confessional.
Why don't you have a look first?
Do not tell me you are afraid of the dark.
Not the dark, just pitch-black, eerie passages in old churches. Poirot, where are we?
If I am not mistaken, this is part of the secret tunnels that were built hundreds of years ago to sneak those that did not agree with the powers of the country out.
And why exactly are we in here?
The why must never be obvious. That is the whole point.
Right.
Ah. Huh. Oh.
We have our third forgery. There is evidence of a much more modern painting on the back of the canvas.
Thank goodness. Don't know how I would explain finding the original in such a state.
Bishop Mountjoy must have discovered the painting that he received from Mademoiselle Court Smythe was one of her forgeries.
And lashed out. Now it makes sense. He's been using this room to store his own private art collection. I can picture him sitting here smug as anything, surrounded by stolen paintings.
What I find most unfortunate
is that not only does he deprive the world of beauty and joy from seeing these works, but he also keeps them in such dark and dank conditions, the old fool. He's even having to light his candle clock to keep from drifting off down here. Such a waste, don't you think, Poirot?
One's opinions are now worth listening to.
I was only voicing my thoughts.
You have thoughts beside those of Mademoiselle Farquhar?
Really, Poirot? You still think so little of me?
When one exclaims such regard for a suspect in a murder investigation, it is hard not to think any other way and comment so.
You may not be so accustomed to the idea of showing, or at least having, some form of empathy for our fellow man.
There is a difference between empathy and lust.
And there is a difference between commenting and being rude and obnoxious.
I was not expecting Monsieur Hastings to be so sensitive on the matter. Perhaps this conversation is best saved for when we are not trapped together.
What was that? Oh, just the bishop's candle clock. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of this place. Let's get out of here. What are you doing, Poirot?
S'il vous plaît, un moment.
The bishop's candle clock has forced me to question everything of the murder scene that I previously thought I knew.
We must return to Mademoiselle Court-Smythe's apartment.
Perhaps that is a job best left for you, by yourself.
Aha. Oh. Ah. Huh. 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 Oh.
Et maintenant?
Oh.
I believe myself to be the greatest detective in the most prestigious police force in the world. But I have been duped and swindled, falling directly into the trap laid by the killer. And now I stand here alone, contemplating what is to come next. Monsieur Hastings was quick to make his excuses to retire to his abode and not return to the scene of the crime by my side. I hope there is not something further that troubles him. One does not need added strains at a time when steps must be retraced and a new timeline considered. Sacré! I have spent my time staring into the sun when deceit and deception has taken place in the shadows. A murderer remains free. But the truth of the fire eludes Detective Hercule Poirot no more, and soon neither will their identity.